The What It Takes Radio Company. We are proud to present our flagship program, Interesting Ideas. And today, remembering that moment in history when the Berlin Wall came tumbling down. And perhaps there are some walls that you need to start bringing down in your life. Hello, this is Stan once again for Interesting Ideas. We're here to help you maybe perhaps to live better starting now. Now, I wasn't going to actually do a program today until I discovered and remembered that November 9th, 1989, and I was very much involved in some of the things leading up to that. November 9th, 1989 was the day that the Berlin Wall came tumbling down. The walls came tumbling down. And having lived and worked in Europe at that time, particularly in work that was dedicated to communicating to the Soviet Union, I was very much involved in that idea. And we had just returned from our stint in Europe at that time, and we're watching things carefully and closely. And all of a sudden, to even our surprise, we knew things were brewing. But when the wall came down, it was a miracle. It was truly a miracle. And I'll tell you more about that later on as we get going in the program. Hey, I spoke to a group at the Chamber of Commerce here in Cary. It was for solo entrepreneurs. You had to have less than 5 employees, and you had to be entrepreneurs. And what we were all about, and what my talking was all about, was the fact that most entrepreneurs don't know how to sell and market themselves first. They know their product. They perhaps even invented it. They know their service. They've gotten pretty good at it. But nothing happens until people buy you. And what I'm really good at is helping people understand that all business is show business. You not only have to show up, you have to put on a show. And first of all, before they'll buy your services or your stuff, they have to buy you. My book goes back 20 years. It's only out of date technologically, theory, and maybe even a little bit of theology. Like I told this one woman today, I said, chapter 2 in my book, You Make the Difference, was image is not everything, but it is the first thing. And she stopped and said, oh my goodness, that's exactly true. Image is not everything, but by golly, it is the first thing. And she started to write down a number of things, and then finally I actually told her, because she was in sales, that please keep in mind you don't want referrals, you want recommendations. And she said, oh, recommendations, not referrals. She said, where did you learn all this stuff? I said, I learned it by doing it as a business performance coach for almost 30 years, and I still am. Because that's the business I'm in, is to help people build a life, build a career, build a business, have more fun, do more good, and make more money. That's the deal. And I think we do it pretty well. So there's a little bit of my pitch, but that's what I've been doing this morning, and now I'm on the radio, even though I didn't expect to be. But the nice thing about what I'm all about is I have a TV studio. We can do that. I have a radio studio right next to me, and this is a secondary Zoom and that kind of studio. So I can put together a radio or a TV program and send it around the world in practically no time, and I could teach you how to do the same thing if you're smart enough to want to learn how to do that. Okay, there we go. Hey, here's the deal. 1983 through 1987, my family and I, we were living in Europe, in Amsterdam, working for an organization called Trans World Radio, which broadcast programs all around the world. I was very much involved in the training and teaching, and particularly some of the people who actually were involved in trying to do radio programs for people in the region what was called the Iron Curtain. That was, of course, the countries that were still under control of the Soviet Union. And so that was a lot of the work I did. And so we were watching very, very much the situation as it began to develop in Europe at that time. And so I was very, very much, again, watching the scene because what was happening, particularly in some of the smaller countries like Hungary and things like that, there was the beginning of some agitation, and there was a less ability on the part of some of those Soviet-led governments to be able to resist what was obviously beginning, particularly in Czechoslovakia and some of those areas. And of all things, even in Germany, in East Germany. And that was the one that became the most striking. So I was very much watching that. And by this time, we had returned home. And so I was, again, finding my new work and deal of how to make things happen. When all of a sudden, we began to find it was beginning to happen. And I perked up. Now, what was actually happening, which a lot of people don't know, is that the demonstrations in East Germany, East Berlin, that began actually were part of kind of a prayer meeting parade that was being launched peacefully by a number of small churches, many of them of the Lutheran persuasion, because that was at least in West Germany, it still is kind of the official church, though obviously there are all kinds of other denominations. At the same time, in the Catholic world, John Paul II was making it very, very clear that part of his mission as a leader of the church was to free the church that was under communist captivity. He was very clear about that. Well, of course, all of a sudden these things happened, and then literally, without a shot being fired. And that was the crazy thing about it, There had been shootings because the East German guards, whenever anybody would try to make it over the first wall, which was to keep people in, and the other one to keep people out, but primarily to keep people out, keep people in, is they would shoot people when they would try and escape. Happened all the time. All of a sudden, some of them laid down their guns and wouldn't shoot, and then before we knew it, without a shot being fired, people were climbing all over the walls, hammering it, beating up on it, painting it, and before we knew it, the guards had fled, and the wall was open, and all of a sudden they started putting big cracks in it, beatings on it, and to use the old expression, the wall came tumbling down. And I was very much present experientially in that and was very much aware of that. And it made so much of our work that had been to try and bring freedom via good gospel and good news messages. I had good friends both in the Voice of America and in the BBC, and they were, of course, also involved in broadcasts to the Soviet Union and Russia and other places. Those were the people I was with, and it happened. Who would have believed that all of a sudden the Soviet Union's empire would start to collapse and the wall would come down? It was a spiritual miracle. It really was. It was a spiritual miracle, and people who don't believe in spiritual stuff and those who don't believe in miracle stuff will find other explanations for it, for sure. But that's what happened. Believe me, it really did. So I celebrate those good memories. I celebrate those good memories, and maybe in a small way, some of the things that I was able to help teach and to do might have had a small part in my little chip in the wall. And of course, eventually I did get it from a friend, a small little chip of the wall. Yeah, kind of a treasure. Small little, when the walls came tumbling down. Well, that's one of my many, many, many stories. And thank you for listening to it. I'm very, very grateful. However, can I bring it up to date right now? There are a lot of walls that people are putting in place. And our job is still, that's why we call ourselves world class. Not because we're the best. We're aspiring to be the best. But world class means we have a world concern. And we are concerned about what? Well, we are concerned about crossing bridges, crossing boundaries. We are concerned with crossing and tearing down barriers between people, boundaries, barriers. We're in the business of doing bridge building and doing wall what? Walls come tumbling down. That's the business we're in. And so my encouragement to you today, very simply, is we're going to have to think very, very differently about our lives in so many ways. And I'm just going to simply say, please keep in mind that if you really want walls to come down, it will have to be not only an intellectual, it'll have to be a spiritual, it'll have to be a relational, and it will have to be a courage exercise. You see, all things come down to courage. That's right. It all comes down to courage. That's why the great admonition, which I say is, as I said in chapter 1, fear kills everything. We got to bring down the walls and the barriers of fear in people's lives. It's what traps them. It's what keeps them bound. It's what keeps them from becoming all they can be. So we're in the business of helping people be less afraid. Less afraid. Be brave. Be bold. Be bright. Be courageous. Be confident. Be smart. Be savvy. Be smiling. And do the right thing. Learn how to communicate powerfully and emotionally and relationally using the modern media. If you want to be successful in business today, and I taught this to some of the younger people at the thing today, if you don't have any training in media, no, not social media, not Facebook, none of those FaceTime social media. It's the performance media. It's radio podcasting. It's a video showings. It is a live events. It is in performance marketing and doing those right things. Well, thank you for your time, and please celebrate with me. It was a good thing. It was really a good thing. And then eventually, who would have believed it? Not only the wall came down, but the Soviet Empire collapsed. It collapsed. And of course, what part of the problem is today is that Mr. Putin is going to try and put it back in place. Yet, that's the whole deal. Well, let me tell you something. He will fail. He will fail. Unfortunately, he'll do a lot of damage and a lot of killing before he fails, but he will fail. God helped bring the wall down, and God will not allow a puny little punk like Putin to put it back. I guarantee it. Hey, I'm done for the day. Thank you for your time. I'm Stan Husted for Interesting Ideas. I can help you. I know I can help you in some way. Reach out to me in business performance coaching, in how to write a book, how to produce a program, how to make your mark. Remember, all business is show business. You don't have any clients. You don't have any customers. You don't have any prospects. You don't have any suspects. You only have a worldwide audience. And so you have to discover who they are or create them. And then you have to learn how to reach them and connect with them and get them to enjoy you and then buy your stuff, your good stuff. That's the deal. StanHouston@gmail.com, StanHouston@gmail.com. Always close with a benediction. And we were blessed on November 9th, 1989. And so on this anniversary day, I send my best and blessings to you, your family, and to the success of your business as you bring down the walls that are hurting and not helping you. Indeed, best and blessings, and bye for now.